Hey folks, Evil DM here, and welcome to another episode of Meg's DC Superheroes. Let's learn the system. This week we're going to dive into something before we go forward with more character creation, but look at it from the GM side of things, or the game master, so to speak, because it's very important to nail down your genre of setting before the players build their characters, because sometimes when you build a character, you have a certain vision in mind as a player, what you want, but the GM may not have the same vision in their mind of what campaign they want to run. So maybe you want to run a certain humorous, like Plastic Man type thing, or Ambush Bug or something like that, and the GM is deciding that it's going to be like a gritty campaign that's like, you know, Green Arrow, or like a mock real Batman type thing or something. Well, the genre comes into play, and when you do that, there are certain rules that you have to actually consider when you make your genre. So let's go over them real quick. We have humor, action, mock real, gritty, and real setting. Now, humor is like, you know, ludicrous, funny, goofy. The laws of silence. The laws of silent. I did it again. The laws of science are completely suspended in this genre. Like, killing damage doesn't happen. You'll, even if you get knocked back, even if like a big bomb explodes, you know, things like dumb luck come into play. And, you know, Ambush Bug, Plastic Man, Captain Carrot, and his amazing zoo crew are what they list for example. Okay, so there will never, ever be killing combat and humor campaigns whatsoever. It's just not allowed. Because they're humorous. It's just like a goofy Saturday morning cartoon, you know, kind of like a Bugs Bunny type deal. Like, or maybe remember the game Toon. I know there's people out there that remember that game Toon. Think of that. Now, action. This is where most of the DC comic universe kind of sits in, like the most, you know, superhero apple pie ones. This is where, you know, villain versus hero, punch them up, round them up, arrest them type things. And DC hero is default action as its genre setting. So the examples of that would be like the Justice League of America, Captain Atom, and Superman comics. Those are the comics that, you know, the good guys are good. They don't take the extra, you know, Dirty Harry judgment thing going on and move forward with their justice style. Now, mock real adventures are like slightly more realistic than the action. They have guns and bombs, and those things can actually kill people. And killing combat is pretty much kind of a standard in this type of setting. So, and then laws of nature actually apply strictly in this adventure setting. It's highly recommended, according to the book, for more experienced GMs and players, but it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, because any GM or player, whatever they want their heart set out to be, will happen. So, it's just following more gritty, just more realistic rules in the game setting and following it more to the T. Examples of this would be Batman, Legion of Superhero, and the New Titans, where they would beat the crap out of and possibly kill their their prey or their victim. So gritty is more of a combat, skill use, occasional tactics, guerrilla warfare, gross violations of reality, killing, slicing, dicing, lots of blood. I mean, have you watched the New Titans TV show on the DC Universe app? You know that that's a gritty setting. It's dark. It's just, you know, that whole dark, evil, I don't give a shit setting type going on, and I'm going to get the job done by any means necessary. And they list things like the Green Arrow is this, but I don't really honestly see the Green Arrow right now as a gritty setting. Maybe back when this game was written, he was more of a gritty, and I would actually put some of the Batman kind of into the more gritty section of things, depending on the era again. But, you know, they list Swamp Things and The Question as well. Some older comics, of course. Swamp Thing, though, is really cool. But we'll get into something like that later on down the line. And then we have like the realistic setting adventures where there's an accurate version of combat. Everything is psychological, is complex. Science works in these adventures almost the same as it does in the real world. So you're mimicking everything realistically from this world. All the other ones, you kind of suspend disbelief of real world stuff and physics and everything. This one, absolutely everything goes as far as what this real world is, the comic book world. Examples of that would be like The Watchmen, V for Vendetta, Underworld, and Hellblazer with Constantine. Now, after you decide what setting you want to do, you can customize it a little bit. And they have a little checklist to customize it. So you want to pick what genre you want. Chances are that you're going to look at a little chart on page 176, which is Appendix. Let me just get that page up for you. 176, which is Appendix C in the 3E core rulebook. And it goes over each of these little genres one by one, but it also gives you a chart at the bottom that tells you whether certain things will fit into this genre. Like if killing combat, no, never. And then yes. It also gives you the option to, you don't have to follow this, of course it's your campaign world, but it gives you an idea. The dice action, a number of hero points it costs to raise your AV, or EV, OV, or RV by a single point. Now when it's the humor one, it's only 1 point per point. Action 1 point. When you get into mock real, it starts getting into 3 points for the 1 point raise. Gritty 5, 8 for the real. So it gets a little bit more. And then last ditch, which we haven't gone over yet, but we will go over it another time when we get more into the rules. This is just, kind of getting into the GM section here. How many points it costs to do a last ditch effort. Now, of course, you can mix that back and forth, and you don't have to follow this chart at all. It starts at 1, goes all the way up to 5, going all the way to real world, but you can make it 1 if you really want to. It's up to you. Desperation, another rule we'll be going over later on. How many hero points it costs for a recovery check, for a desperation recovery check, and so on and so forth. And then there's pushing it, the number of AP points that you can actually do, like pushing an automatic ability, which we'll get into later in more rules. And then recovery, how much time it takes to recover when you have broken bones, scratches, and things like that. Obviously, the more realistic the setting gets, the harder it is going to be to heal, because if it's a humor goofy setting, obviously it's going to take like no time at all, because you just wave some of that stuff. But you get into the realistic one, it's going to take weeks sometimes to heal from some of these various wounds that your character is going to get. It also has one last section called Notes A, B, C, and D, and it gives you some various options like how multi-attack works, how devastating attacks, if they do work or not, adding some hero points to some various skills and up and down. And then also it does have the D option, which is no matter what, players do not suffer award penalties for initiating killing combat. So we'll get into much of these things later on. I just wanted to go over the genres real quick before we get into really some heavy GM stuff. But this is a very important part when you're first planning your campaign for your players. Even before they can build their characters, you need to have this set and at least tell them which type one you're going to play into. Humor, action, mock real, gritty, and real, because then they know how to build their character around that. It's very, very important, I think, in my eyes. Tell me what you think about genres. Do you use these things? Do you just not care? What do you do? Give me a comment below, like, comment, subscribe, and hit that little bell notification for the next video. And hope you have a superhero day.